As our world changes, we'll keep you up to date with the latest information. News Talk KVNU 102 FM, 610 AM.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. Utah State University has named Matthew Pinner as the next executive director of the Office of Equity. Pinner will oversee USU's system-wide compliance with non-discrimination law and policy, Title IX regulations, and USU's policy on sexual misconduct. He begins at USU's Logan campus on February 23rd. USU Provost Frank Gailey said that Pinner brings important skills and experience in non-discrimination, Title IX compliance, as well as in human resources. The office has made huge strides over the last few years in revising policies and procedures and in training the entire campus community. Pinner has provided legal and compliance advice for over 14 years with experience in higher education, risk mitigation, leadership, law, and human resources. He comes to USU from the University of Illinois, where he has served as an associate director of the Equal Employment Opportunity Division for the Office for Access and Equity. In this role, he helped to prepare the university's most recent campus sexual misconduct policy and procedures to comply with the August 2020 changes to the Title IX regulations. He also worked with multiple campus units to conduct training and programming regarding inclusivity, discrimination, harassment, and retaliation issues. KBNU News Time is 5:06. KBNU weather, slight chance of snow this evening, colder, low between 15 and 20, and a 50% chance of snow on Wednesday, cloudy and around 30, partly cloudy and around 30 degrees on Thursday. It's been 37, it's 33 right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Adams Wealth Advisors. They want to understand your family, job, hobbies, and goals to earn your long-term financial trust. Visit adamswealthadvisors.com to schedule a time with an advisor today.
The colder weather is here. Are your quilts and blankets looking dingy? Is your winter coat or jacket dirty enough to stand in the corner just by itself? Well, go to Mount Logan Laundry. It'll take no time at all to freshen up everything. They have the 55 and 80-pound washers, the biggest around, and great big dryers, too, and it costs a whole lot less than dry cleaning. Free Wi-Fi and drop-off service. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town on the corner of 5th East, 9th North and Logan, or in Brigham at 1st East, 7th South. Mount Logan Laundry.
KVNU News Time is 5:08. After lengthy debate and passionate testimony on all sides, a Utah House committee narrowly defeated a bill repealing the death penalty in Utah. KUTV reports the 5-6 vote came late Monday after a nearly 3-hour hearing of the House Law Enforcement and Criminal Justice Committee and a strong plea from House Majority Leader Mike Schultz of Hooper to vote down House Bill 147. The bill, sponsored by Representative Lowry Snow from St. George, would have removed death as a punishment for aggravated murder committed after May 4th, unless a prosecutor filed an intent to seek the death penalty before that date. The bill also would have added a possible sentence of 45 years to life for that crime. Snow argued the death penalty leads to excessive costs to taxpayers and does not bring peace or healing to victims, but opposition to the bill was strong. House committee members heard from loved ones of Lizzie Shelley, a 5-year-old Logan girl who was killed by her uncle, Alex Whipple, back in 2019. Whipple avoided the death penalty in exchange for telling police where the girl's body was. Jessica Black, Lizzie's mother, tearfully told lawmakers that having the death penalty allowed them to find her daughter and put the perpetrator in prison for the rest of his life. And legislation that would bar Idaho officials from releasing where they obtained the drugs used in lethal injection executions was introduced by the House State Affairs Committee on Monday. The Idaho Department of Corrections has long tried to keep details about where and how it obtains lethal injection drugs secret, but the bill from Republican Caldwell Republican Representative Greg Cheney would make that secrecy part of state law. Cheney says the secrecy bill is needed because anti-death penalty advocates could try to publicly shame companies that provide the drugs. KVNU News Time is 5:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
The local news source. News Talk KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Stop! If you're shopping for tires, stop. Don't buy tires today. Wait, because the biggest tire sale of the year is starting tomorrow at Discount Tire and Automotive in Logan, Providence, and Smithfield. There's no need to shop around because you'll get the absolute lowest prices in town or online on your favorite brands including Goodyear, BF Goodrich, Toyo, and Michelin. And I repeat, do not buy tires today. The best tire deals are coming Wednesday to Discount Tire and Automotive in Logan, Providence, and Smithfield. Tires with prices so low you won't believe it. Choose 6 months no interest, no credit check financing or layaway. The biggest sale of the year is starting Wednesday at Discount Tire and Automotive in Logan, Providence, and Smithfield. The deals are so good the manufacturers won't allow the prices to be given over the phone. Don't miss the Discount Tire and Automotive warehouse sale. 4 days only. Starting tomorrow, go to Discount Tire and Automotive in Logan, 895 North Main, 110 South Highway 165 in Providence, and 728 South Main in Smithfield.
Discount Tire.
So much more than a tire store.
Let's go ski joring.
Ski what?
Ski joring. It's where a person on skis is pulled by a horse. It comes from Norway, and it means ski driving. Come try it this Saturday in Bear Lake. You can even compete for cash and prizes. Google Ski Joring Bear Lake to see a video and learn more. Then come ski joring this Saturday morning just north of Heritage Park in Garden City. Brought to you by MW Quarter Horses, Bear Lake Visitor Bureau, and Bear Lake Valley Chamber.
Feels like Tuesday. Tuesday has no feel.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Hour 2 of today's show. Tuesday, February 15th. Cache County Republican Party Chairman Chris Booth will be with us towards the end of the hour. Talk about what you can expect from this year's Lincoln Dinner, how you can get registered, get a ticket for that event coming up on the 19th, so just a few days away. We'll also talk about their legislative town halls and how the legislative session has been going from Cache County Republican Party leadership's perspective. That's coming up later on in the hour. To kick things off here, a bit of a recap of the last 24 hours of legislative action, including some bright spots for Cache Valley's own lawmakers. There were several committee hearings that happened after our show ended yesterday. We brought you audio of the big committee hearing, the one everyone was paying attention to, a bill that would have repealed the death penalty here in Utah. The committee, in the end, voted not to advance the bill, so it's dead for this session at least. But Representative Lowry Snell, Republican lawmaker from St. George, said he will be bringing it back next year, and he believes that the time is right to do this here in Utah. It was very interesting for those of you in Cache Valley who followed the tragic story in 2019 of the murder of little Lizzie Shelley. During the committee hearing yesterday, we had this audio on the show. As we wrapped up, it was playing out, so we checked in live a few times during this committee hearing. But you had opposing testimony from two people intimately involved with that whole Lizzie Shelley tragedy here in Cache Valley and her murder. One was the judge who oversaw, as his last case before retirement, who oversaw the case and the trial of the murderer. And you had Lizzie Shelley's own mom. And they were presenting, again, opposing testimony on the death penalty. We had Judge Kevin Allen, now retired, saying that the death penalty, so the Lizzie Shelley case has been brought up by opponents of repealing the death penalty here in Utah numerous times over the last few weeks, and the judge wanted to speak to that. And he said, as a former prosecutor himself, he said the death penalty was not key in solving this case or finding Lizzie Shelley's body, that the person who committed that crime would have given them the details in a matter of days anyway. So he said the weather had more to do with the fact that investigators hadn't found the body yet. And that was his opinion as the judge who oversaw the case. Minutes later, Lizzie Shelley's mom stepped to the same microphone during this committee hearing that was supposed to end at 6. It went until 7:30 last night before they voted. More than 2 hours on one bill, and that's pretty rare. But a lot of public comment. So minutes after retired Judge Kevin Allen spoke in favor of repealing the death penalty and saying that he had come to kind of shoot down what he felt were some myths that were being built up around the Lizzie Shelley case itself as an example of why the death penalty is important. If you were following, the justification given was that prosecutors were able to get the location of Lizzie Shelley's body from the young man who murdered her, because they said, if you give us that information, we'll take the death penalty off the table. You'll only be facing life in prison. And the judge who oversaw that very case said, that wasn't key. He was going to give them the information anyway. So he was there to dispel that myth. And Lizzie Shelley's mom then spoke a few minutes later and said, the opposite. She said, I truly believe if we had not had the leverage of the death penalty, that we might still be looking for her today. So two, opposite points of view on the same tragedy, all of it brought up during this committee hearing with, an equal number of people basically testifying for or against repealing the death penalty. Cache County Sheriff Chad Jensen testified as well and said basically what you'd expect a sheriff to say about the death penalty. There were surprisingly some conservative think tank representatives and even former conservative lawmakers who spoke in favor of repealing the death penalty. It's been interesting to watch the evolution on this one from Republicans in the legislature, but alas, it will not get a floor vote again. The committee voted at about 7:30 last night to kill that bill, and it will just go away for this session. But again, Representative Lowry Snow, Republican lawmaker from St. George, says he will be bringing it back in the session next year. So not a done deal in his opinion. So that's bringing you up to speed on where we ended the show yesterday, because, again, this committee hearing was playing out live as our show was playing out. We were able to get to Judge Kevin Allen's comments, and then we had to hand things over to Dave Ramsey. And then minutes later, that's when Lizzie Shelley's mom stepped up and gave testimony, opposing testimony to what the retired judge had said. It was a passionate discussion, and lawmakers were it was split, to say the least. Obviously, there was one more vote for killing the bill than letting it go to a House floor debate, because that was the result. But it was a split committee. So I would guess that eventually this is probably going to happen here in Utah, just not this year. All right. Today, though, we have a lot of action from Cache Valley lawmakers. Representatives Snyder, Johnson, Senator Chris Wilson. Over the Hill, we have Representative Joel Perry and Senator Scott Sandel all got to present some pretty important legislation to committees and even represent them in House and Senate floor debates over the last 24 hours. And this wasn't planned, as I understand it. I spoke with a couple of them, and it was just the way the calendar shook up. It wasn't Cache Valley Day on the Hill. Senator Chris Wilson, you heard this on yesterday's show, but Senator Chris Wilson broke down some of the appropriations so far. It's not finalized, but some of the appropriations that they know will be in the final budget that will benefit Cache Valley directly. That work continues, Senator Wilson said today, and he is hoping to be able to provide a full report, possibly as early as this week's legislative town hall on Thursday evening, which you can watch on the Cache Republican Party Facebook page and YouTube channel each Thursday night, and then we will have some highlights for you on Friday's show. Representative Dan Johnson stepped up to the microphone in a committee hearing on Valentine's Day, of all days, to present a bill that is the work of several months of work group work. A work group has been put together a couple of years ago by the legislature to deal with and come up with some ways to bolster civics education in public schools here in Utah. There's already a program for civics classes, civics education, but it's oftentimes taught in inside of other classes, critical thinking classes, government classes where they exist, and things like that. So the work group was put together to say, should we explore this? And maybe even include, things like media literacy, how to spot misinformation, how not to be fooled by something one of your friends shared on Facebook. Should that be included when we're talking civics education? And the debate got pretty, all over the place. And so the end result 2 years ago was they said, let's form a working group. And let's have this working group spend some time digging into this. And see what would be best as far as boosting civics education in classrooms here in Utah. And Representative Dan Johnson from right here in Cache Valley, representing Logan City roughly in his District 4, became the lead on this one. He's running the bill. It's House Bill 273, Civics Education Amendments. And here is what Representative Johnson had to say as this bill was presented during a committee meeting in its first public view yesterday afternoon.
And at the conclusion of that work, people came together and made a variety of recommendations. And those got narrowed down and actually were placed in this bill. The people on that committee felt like the best way to carry this forward was really through a pilot program. And that's why before you today is Civic Education Amendments, House Bill 273. So just a great job by Representative Snow for leading that work group. And I want you to know we also work closely with the Sutherland Institute, and that work group was co-chaired by a person from the Hinckley Institute. So to tell you the truth, I think all of us are aware of the fact that the time has come for Utah to lead out and have a strong K-12 civics program. Many of the societal impacts we're seeing right now, I think, are just public evidence almost every day that our kids need to have a great, solid civics program, K-12. What this basically does is it creates a pilot program, and that pilot program would last for 3 years. There's a $1.5 million attachment in that would pay for substitute teachers as teachers would come for training, and it would pay stipends to those teachers to work on this. The pilot would be run so that we would have evaluation with a third-party evaluator. We'll gather data from students, parents, and teachers over a period of time, taking a look at innovative approaches to teaching and learning, capturing those with data, and then informing teachers of that and the State Office of Education, and hopefully scale up those results after they're collected. I think this is the right approach because it's a monitored approach to teaching and learning over time, and rather than throwing money at something, I think we're a lot better off if we invite districts to apply for these grants, and they would be districts of different sizes, populations, geographical areas, and economic considerations as well. So that's really what it does. And I would like to turn some time to Robert Austin, who is the Social Studies Specialist for the State Department. I want to clarify one thing, though, before I turn the time to Robert, and that is that this legislation was actually passed in a previous time, but because of what happened with COVID, all the money to fund it, and you all know this, all that was collected back. So you'll see a lot of lined out things. It just lines out the bill that was actually passed by the legislature, but it was unfunded.
My name is Robert Austin. I'm the Humanities Team Coordinator for the State Board of Education. I'm not speaking today as representing the board, but I can tell you that in my work with social studies and with educators across the state, we've had lots of conversations regarding this concept. Last week, this committee had a lot of analogies to car maintenance, if you remember some of the conversations. I think about this bill as kind of like driver's ed. You wouldn't have a driver's ed instructor who never got the students actually out on the road. You'd be a little worried. What this bill does is it gets students engaged in civics in some really great ways. I'll give you one example. Last week, I judged the We the People program. We the People is a really amazing constitutional deep dive where students then testify in a mock public hearing very similar to this. They present constitutional concepts and then are judged by stakeholders from the community. Yeah, it's a really amazing program. And last week it was school versus school versus school. And I mean that literally. It was school versus school versus school because it was 3 high schools for the statewide competition in We the People. 3. There used to be over 20 participating in We the People. And I talked to the person who coordinates that program, and they said, well, we used to have some money. Not much, but we had money to support educators and the kinds of things they need. Just a little bit of funding that can make a huge difference in people being able to participate in programs like We the People, or Boys State, Girls State, academic service learning programs. The list is enormous.
That was testimony again from the official board member representing the social studies and civics education portion of the state board, speaking alongside Representative Dan Johnson, who's running this bill to create and fund a civics education program here in Utah. If you'd like to read it, it's House Bill 273, Civics Education Amendments. And as Representative Johnson said, this type of stuff already exists. What this bill does is just spells it out and then actually funds it so that it's happening in Utah. He said later on during the committee meeting, we have great civics education programs, but the schools oftentimes don't have the resources to actually teach them or implement them. And that shouldn't be the case. The committee agreed, and it did pass the House Education Committee with a favorable recommendation and heads to the House floor for a full debate next Monday. Check it out. It is, again, House Bill 273, sponsored by Representative Dan Johnson, creating a civics education program, officially, finally, here in Utah. We'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
It's a cold, blustery night, but you're warm and cozy inside in front of your new low-pi or extraordinaire fireplace. The dancing flames, nice even heat. You and yours are loving it, and you know it's love when they say,
boy, we're really saving on our heat bills, aren't we, hun?
For the love of savings, ask Jim Chimney about rebates up to $3,800 for qualifying conversions from inefficient wood stoves for fireplaces. We sell, service, and install. Visit us at chimchimney.com.
Hi, this is Drew Allen with Allen Mortuaries. Over the years, thousands of families have planned ahead with Allen Mortuaries. Planning ahead helps you make informed and thoughtful decisions. It also spares your family the stress of making these decisions under the pressure of time and strong emotions. Allen Mortuaries' secure pre-need trust plan can save you nearly 40% versus other plans. Keep it simple, safe, and secure. Go with the proven choice, Allen Mortuaries. Voted best funeral home in Cache Valley in northern Utah. Allen Mortuaries. Then, now, always.
It's honestly amazing what we're able to take care of. In addition, Bill and I, to hosting the show every day, making the show happen every day. At the same time, yesterday, I was here dropping into committee meetings live and happening to do so at the perfect time for what Cache Valley would want to hear and care about the most as this played out on Capitol Hill. Today, we've managed to diagnose and get repaired Bill's car.
Yeah.
All in the space of a radio show. And we haven't even left the studio.
Big shout out to my friend Mike and his wife Sarah. It's not his full-time vocation. He works online, works from home, but he loves he loves working on cars as, well, for lack of a better term, a hobby, I guess. He loves tinkering with that and
sure,
getting into it. So
everybody's got to have something like that. It's the erector sets for adults. That's what I've always thought of it as in my head.
I've always been envious of people that really can get into cars and stuff because, over the years I have had a humongous share of, like a lot of people, of vehicle problems.
Sure.
And then just being, the worst thing is not knowing what the problem is.
Yeah.
Well, it could be this, or it could be that, or it could be something over here, or
sure. It's
I guess it's the same with disease or something, symptoms of a disease. If you don't know what's causing something, that is super frustrating, and it's the same with cars.
That's, I think, there's, it was an argument I saw once back. Now, this doesn't apply to Cache Valley yet. It might in the future, nearer than we think, but it was an argument that played out in a larger city, and it was someone who wasn't from the city was talking about car ownership, and they had done their best to try and quantify what car ownership is actually all about. And it's so much more than just the price of the car or the payment you're making to a bank for a loan. There's also everything you have to put into it year round, from maintenance to registration to repairs. And then if you live in a big city, you're also looking at parking costs, sometimes long term because you don't drive it every day. And the argument was basically, look, this is more of a headache maybe than it's actually worth. I don't think that's the case here in Cache Valley yet. It might get there 20 years from now when basically we've built houses up as high as we can up the mountains and we're all crunched and crowded in here, and it's just easier at that point for everyone to use public transit. That is probably in the future somewhere. It's definitely, the Wasatch Front, most of the Wasatch Front's already there. But it could happen here in Cache Valley. But right now I think we're still in a state where the inconvenience and costs of having a car are outweighed by the convenience of having a car. And those east and west coasters in the big cities, they just don't get that.
Yeah.
But if I lived there, if you've ever traveled to Washington, D.C., these are extreme examples, but Chicago, Washington, D.C., Manhattan, you couldn't pay me to own a car in those places.
Especially New York City, it's a hassle.
Oh.
You have to, to find a parking spot, and then if you're on the street, you got to move at least this was like this years ago when my niece and her husband lived there. You have to get you have to leave whatever you're doing and go move your car from one side
to the
other side to make way for the street cleaners.
Otherwise, you'll get an expensive $250 ticket.
Yeah, or booted or something.
Yeah, really, there are places where it is more of a hassle to own one than not, and then also you can't really get anywhere in a lot of those cities conveniently with a car. Downtown LA, I think, is one of the few exceptions. That's still a very car-friendly city, but lots of other places. And if you ever have been in, you don't even have to go as far as Salt Lake. If you've been on Riverdale Road, a friend of mine lived in South Salt Lake, 4500 South-ish, and I during the film festival one year, we'd stayed with him at his apartment, the whole crew going to the film festival that year, and I remember I got to witness commute traffic from my little privileged behind from here in Cache Valley, coming out of movies in Park City and hitting commute traffic in Salt Lake on the way to the temporary home. And I remember thinking to myself, I would ride a bus. I would more than happily learn the bus schedule and pay whatever it is you pay for those monthly passes for UTA rather than commute through this every day, morning and night.
Yeah.
It would drive me absolutely bonkers. But that's me. Some people adjust. I was laughing.
And some people like to show off their Indy 500, maneuvers and stuff.
That is, several years ago, more than several, coming up on 20 years ago, I drove to Ogden every day for work from Cache Valley, and it was really not that bad. It was extremely unpleasant on certain weather days, and a lot of you are just to not be trusted in bad weather at the summit at 6 a.m. I'm sorry. A lot of you drivers out there saw some really, really bad decisions being made around me that could have affected me when they went south. But if you drive rationally and you're aware of the weather conditions, the drive from here to Ogden is it's 30, 35 minutes. It's really not bad. And what I really liked about it is that it was so easy to leave work at work, because you have that just lengthy enough commute that by the time you hit home, you're not thinking about work anymore. You've decompressed. And so my work and home life were so almost like two different worlds. I liked that. I appreciated that. And of course, being self-employed now, leaving work at work is just no longer a thing that happens. But at the time, I really appreciated that. But I was complaining one day. A coworker of mine at this same job made the commute from Morgan. She lived in Morgan County, Peterson, I think, and she would drive into Ogden every day for work. And we were talking, and she explained that to get to the location of this place from where she was coming from, it took her the exact same amount of time that it took me coming from Cache Valley. It took me 30, 35 minutes on a good traffic day on the freeway to get off there on 25th Street, the 24th Street, or 21st Street exit. She would take the same route, or she was coming to the same place, but she would take a route that took her more through Ogden, not around on the freeway, because that was the shortest route for her. But it took her about 35 minutes. Same commute, a lot less miles for her. And so, but then she also, as I was complaining about my commute, she also said, she used to live in L.A., and she'd also spent some time in Portland, Oregon, and she said, you know what, one of my jobs was 7 miles from my home. It was 7 miles, and my commute was still about 40, 45 minutes.
Wow.
Especially in the afternoons. And so, yeah, you put all that in perspective. Main Street Logan, I know, can get pretty gnarly at certain times of day. And every time I'm driving Main Street Logan in the afternoons, I see a lot of near misses on fender benders, people just not paying attention or just driving pointlessly aggressively. Why are you tailgating the person in front of you when there are 18 cars in front of them? I mean, what is wrong with you? I think those things every time I drive Main Street when it's crowded, and so it gets pretty ugly, but it's still not quite as bad as Riverdale Road at the same time of day.
Riverdale Road just scares the bejeebers out of me.
One thing I have to say about Riverdale Road, though, and the UDOT data backs this up, far fewer accidents than Main Street Logan. More traffic.
I wonder if it's because everybody's just
more
on edge and they're just afraid to
honestly,
do something.
I think it's because there are far less entrances to the road, far less opportunities for a left turn onto the road, which we've talked about last week regarding Main Street Logan.
Okay, I was in the drive-through of a popular fast food restaurant in Logan, and it doesn't involve them or anything.
Not their fault.
Restaurant. Yeah, nothing they did. But I observed as I was sitting in the drive-through, this car that was this kid, I guess he was a kid, I don't know, was determined to go left. And so he was wedged. There were cars coming at him, and he couldn't really see the cars coming over to his right, and especially there's an intersection there, so those cars could just suddenly appear, once they make the turn from the intersection.
Sure.
So he wouldn't be able to see, but he was determined he was going to go left. So he just put his nose out there, and this big truck right there that was headed north, stopped for him so he could go, so he could make his left-hand turn, and I was just I just sat there and just shook my head.
I do not understand.
Because I think that's where a lot of these accidents, that's where they occur.
Yeah.
Just a left hand from a parking lot or
it's my biggest
stop sign.
biggest pet peeve, and I think it would improve the flow of traffic on Main Street, Logan, so much to block some of those opportunities for left-hand turns, especially only the non-light ones. Of course, left-hand turns at an intersection at a light, it's not negatively impacting traffic any more than the light itself already has. But, those left-hand turns mid-block and those south end of town, near the Y, where you've got the donuts and coffee and Who Hot and all of that there. I see people, 6 o'clock at night, wall-to-wall traffic, sitting there with their left turn signal on, when you can make a right-hand turn, or better yet, just leave the parking lot through the back end.
Yeah, where it's
go
not
to
on
a nice roundabout in Providence.
Carrying freeway traffic.
Oh, yeah. Go out to a beautiful roundabout in Providence that never really backs up with traffic, and then out to a light. I mean, that's all you have to do, and instead you are sitting there at 6 o'clock facing west. I mean, you got a nice view of the sunset, I guess, at certain times of year while you're waiting for 25 minutes to turn left. And then when you turn left, you're instantly in the way. And I see someone doing it every day. It just absolutely, we need to wrap our heads around right-hand turns, taking alternative routes that are going to have you at a light instead of trying to turn left at mid-block. Or
burn 30 cents worth of gas extra.
Sure. You'll save time. It's safer, and traffic for all of us would flow better if people would stop making those mid-block left-hand turns onto the roadway. And it really just makes no sense for the drivers themselves. It costs you time and stress. Whew. Got to get a rant going here. Chris Booth of the Cache County Republican Party will be joining us in just a bit. First, though, a look at the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:41. News brought to you by Roof Rescue. The members of Logan City Council will host a public hearing on a proposal to raise fees for municipal recreation services at their regular meeting tonight. In a previous workshop session on February 1st, Parks and Rec Director Russ Aquina attributed the need for those fee hikes to 3 factors, all of which are at least partially complicated by the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. Those factors, he said, are a shortage of part-time labor, the escalating cost of operational supplies for recreational facilities, and supply chain issues that make the availability of those supplies uncertain. Aquina cited the Logan Aquatic Center as a prime example of a city facility where fee adjustments are necessary to cover increased costs. In 2021, the city pool had to be closed on some Sundays due to a lack of lifeguards. As recently as 2019, Aquina said part-time lifeguards could be hired for $9 or $10 an hour. Now a more realistic salary for those young people is $13 or $14 an hour. The mission of the Logan Parks and Recreation Department is to create a sustainable community through people, parks, and programs. Following today's visit to formerly homeless residents of Pamela's Place, a permanent supportive housing apartment complex, Governor Cox encouraged Utahns to give to the Pamela Atkinson Homeless Trust Fund on their 2021 Utah state tax forms. Donations can also easily be made online at jobs.utah.gov/HTF. The governor also assisted community advocate Pamela Atkinson in delivering book donations to the residents. Pamela's Place is one of many organizations statewide that receive funding from the Pamela Atkinson Homeless Trust Fund to assist Utahns in moving out of homelessness. Pamela's Place is a permanent supportive housing complex with 100 units developed by the Housing Authority of Salt Lake City in 2020. Cox noted that each night, roughly 3,500 Utahns are experiencing homelessness. KVNU News Time is 5:44.
If you think it's expensive to hire a professional, just wait until you hire an amateur.
Why the heck is the roof leaking? Larry, you said you got it fixed.
I thought it was fixed, Donna. Everything was fine until it started raining.
Larry, that's the point of fixing the roof, is so we can actually live here when it's stormy outside.
This is David with Roof Rescue. Our experienced roofing team is tried and true and will fix your roof guaranteed. Visit roofrescueusa.com to schedule your free roof inspection. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind.
KBNU weather, slight chance of snow this evening. Colder, low 15 to 20. 50% chance of snow, mostly cloudy, around 30 tomorrow. It was cloudy most of the day, not all day. 37 was our high. It's 33 right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Wheatland Seed. With higher fertilizer prices and drought conditions, 2022 will be challenging. So lower your input costs during Wheatland Seed's preseason sale. All oats, barley, cover crops, and alfalfa will be priced below last year's prices. Visit wheatlandseed.com for more information. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Dr. Josh Red, chiropractic physician, explains how Red River Health and Wellness can help you.
If you have low thyroid and you're taking thyroid medication, the biggest question you should ask yourself is what's causing my low thyroid specifically? If you don't know the answer to that question, it's important to call us. At Red River, we identified triggers that will cause the low thyroid to begin with. One of the most common causes of low thyroid is a disease called Hashimoto's disease. This is an autoimmune disease that is a lot more complicated than just a primary thyroid issue. This is why people will be on thyroid hormone but still feel little to no improvement because nothing's being done to address the bigger, more complicated problem, which is Hashimoto's. If you have low thyroid or you have an autoimmune disease and you're on medication and still don't feel well, call Red River.
Schedule your appointment today at 855-55-RIVER. Red River Health and Wellness with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
Call Red River today.
What is community? It's Friday Night Lights with laughter as post-game commentary. It's fun runs, fun rakes. It's passing the boot for local heroes. And it's breaking ground for groundbreaking startups. This is what makes a community. And it's what makes a community bank. It's fertile financial resources turned back into local soil. Here's to people helping others thrive. This is community banking. D.L. Evans Bank, since 1904. Member FDIC.
Utah has great schools, but not every child has access to them. It's time to abandon a one-size-fits-all approach to education and create more hope and opportunity for every Utah student. The Hope Scholarship Bill will allow families to direct education dollars to meet their child's individual learning needs. With Hope Scholarships, every student can access the education that's right for them. Tell your legislators to support the Hope Scholarship Bill. Visit uthopescholarship.org. Paid for by Americans for Prosperity.
I'm Larry Gelwicks, the getaway guru for Morris Columbus Travel and Apple Vacations. Run away to the sunny beaches of Hawaii, Mexico, and the Caribbean with double discounts, including a guaranteed air and hotel discount. Then we drop your price up to another $150 per booking. For the best travel deals on the planet, call Morris Columbus Travel.
Come on and get away. Morris Columbus.
If you're looking for your next pre-owned vehicle, buy it from a name that Utah has trusted for over 95 years. For generations, the Murdoch Auto Team has given Utah's pre-owned car, truck, and SUV buyers a comfortable, no-pressure buying experience. So go for the gold this February and get 1.99% financing for 72 months, plus no payments for 90 days, and a complimentary gift with every pre-owned vehicle purchase. When you walk through our doors, you feel like family at Murdoch Hyundai or online at murdochhyundai.com.
1.99% APR. Must finance through GWCU. Not all buyers will qualify. See dealer for complete details. Offer ends 2/28/22.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Cache County Republican Chair Chris Booth, Republican Party Chair Chris Booth, he's not just a Republican chair. He is the chair of the Cache Republican Party. He'll be joining us in a bit, either way, whatever his title is. He's going to give us an update on the upcoming Lincoln Day dinner. That is this Friday. Tickets are on sale. I'm sorry, Saturday, and tickets are on sale now at CacheGOP.com. We'll also talk to him about the legislative town halls that they've had running through the Cache Republican Party throughout the session. We're about the halfway point here, so several town halls left. Talk about how you can be a part of those. That's coming up in just a few minutes. To start off this segment, though, just a quick bit of information. Jeff, if you're out there listening, Jeff was a caller towards the end of hour one, and it is a little update I have here for you, Jeff. Jeff had a question about cloud seeding, if that still happened in northern Utah at all. Said he hadn't. He said he knew there was a guy up in Smithfield that used to do it, but he didn't know if that was still a thing. As we were talking about drought, or mega drought, as this new study calls it here in the West. And I got a text from thank you, Nathan Dogs of the Cache Water District shot me a text and said the Cache Water District contracts with the state, and they do continue that cloud seeding program all across northern Utah. And Nathan put it very well. He said, we seed every storm that has the right conditions throughout the winter, and that is a good thing. We need especially now, but in general, we need every drop we can get. So, again, that from Nathan Dogs, a member of the Cache Water District, that the water district here in northern Utah does contract still with the state for the cloud seeding program. And in the wintertime, any storm that comes through that meets the criteria where there would be a point to doing it, they do cloud seed. So, Jeff, there's your answer. Jeff wondered if that still happened in northern Utah, and it does. Cache Water District still contracting with the state on that cloud seeding program here in northern Utah. All right. Glad to be able to provide that information. I had the same question, Jeff, when I thought about this earlier today. If you weren't listening in hour one, that probably made no sense to you. Grab the podcast on the Podcastic service. You'll know what I'm talking about. And now, shifting gears, a special guest joining us to wrap up today's show with some announcements, some updates, and some general good conversation. Our good friend Chris Booth, the chair of the Cache County Republican Party, joining us now. And Chris, let me start us off by just saying thank you for the legislative town halls each week. This has been a great resource for not just what our lawmakers are working on, but kind of seeing where their heads are at on bills that they're not even running themselves. It's just been an amazing thing to have happen every week, and so thank you for organizing that.
You're welcome, Jason. We appreciate a few minutes here at the end of the show. It's kind of like closing down the local bar, right?
That's right. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Right, exactly. That's right. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Anyway, so no, yeah, we appreciate that, and our hats off to our legislators. I mean, it's their, they take their time. I mean, they are running. If you tuned in to either of the ones we've done so far, and we've got three more left. There's really only 2 weeks. We're over the halfway mark of the session here, but yeah, tune in every Thursday night live on our YouTube channel. Just search Cache County GOP and you can find it. We moved to that platform. We were on Facebook last year with these and moved over to the YouTube platform because not everybody does Facebook. But sure. Everybody can Google or look up on YouTube and find us. And we've hats off to the legislators, though. We always get some really good questions. And like you said, the most interesting thing is their perspective on other bills that they are not running,
Yeah.
And that's probably been the most, I think, it's always helpful, obviously, to hear what they're running and or helping to co-sponsor or whatever it may be. But the other bills that, legislators along the Wasatch Front, who for us in our rural counties, we're always seems to be that the legislators from the Wasatch Front, from Salt Lake County area and along that area, always seem to kind of dominate, but our delegation always punches above its weight.
Oh, sure.
Always.
And it's good because everyone wants our water. Everyone wants our education funding. Yep. Everyone wants our job market here in Cache Valley. They really do. And Cache Valley lawmakers have to fight, I think, a little harder than lawmakers from other areas of the state to keep an eye on all this stuff that's happening. So, yeah, I think that said.
They do, and in our delegation, the six legislators that represent us, represent all or a part of Cache County. They all fight really hard for us, for us
Sure.
there in not just in northern Utah, but up, especially in Cache. Right now we've got a little bit of a, little shoving match going on with Union Pacific.
Yeah.
About some issues,
That's been interesting.
And so for a rail line that gets used twice a week, it's just kind of crazy. But anyway, but no, appreciate that. I'm glad that other people, I'm glad that the local media can, tune into those and get their sound bites and that kind of stuff. I know, and be able to run their reports, and so
it's been amazing.
Beneficial for everybody. Yeah, it's beneficial for everybody, and it's nice that we moved it to a weeknight instead of Saturday morning at 7 a.m.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. But one of the other reasons we did that is to expand the audience, right? To
Sure.
be able to expand the audience, and of course, COVID forced us to rethink how we were going to do this. We always did this in person before.
Sure.
But there's pros and cons to the technology side of it. Little hiccups last week, and you don't get the face-to-face with them. However, I've said this before, and I say it all the time. Our legislators in Cache County, they're always, they're very responsive to text, emails, phone calls. And if they don't get back to you right away, they will get back to you. But,
Sure.
So anyway, so there's that. That's going on.
We should give a little
another
shout
one
out
is-
quick to Representative Ferry and Senator Sandel as well. They could easily ignore Cache Valley. There aren't enough people. the sliver, the sliver of the valley they represent. There aren't enough people there to really make much of a stink if they did ignore. And yet they've been there every week alongside Dan, Representative Johnson, Representative Snyder. So just a quick shout out to them. And speaking of virtual and all that, Chris, you guys do have something coming up this weekend that is not virtual, in person. A chance for Cache Valley Republicans to actually mingle, talk to each other, and of course have a good time and hear a cool story. That's what I'm excited about. Your guest speaker this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Lily Tang Williams. If you don't know the story, you can go YouTube it. But the videos, don't really do her story justice.
No.
To hear her tell her story in person, growing up in communist China, coming here, becoming a U.S. citizen. She has an amazing story to tell. She's going to meet with, actually she's meeting on campus earlier in the day. This is being held at Utah State. You can go to our website, cachegop.com, to buy tickets. There are some tickets still available. So it's a fundraiser for the County Republican Party, but we're trying to bring some more diverse culture and bring something that is it knows no political boundaries.
Sure.
Her story, and so I think earlier in the day she's doing an event with being hosted by the USU College Republicans up on campus. I'm going to meet with them and some high school kids, and maybe we've got some other high school teachers in the valley that may be attending that as well. And then of course, the dinner, 5 to 6 p.m. is registration or check-in for the dinner starts then. But 5 to 6 p.m. we'll do a reception and a meet and greet with candidates. We've got, I think right now, about 10 candidates who will have a campaign space there, and come mingle with them, get to know them, vet them out a little bit, and then of course our program starts at 6 p.m. And we've got a great dinner planned by USU. It's a buffet style too.
Oh yeah, always good.
Some chicken and some beef, and if I had it my way, there wouldn't be any vegetables there. But, I didn't plan the menu.
You gotta throw some greens in, right? Just so.
Yeah. I mean, my kind of greens don't. People in Utah don't like collard greens and mustard greens, and
right.
Those are my kind of greens. But anyway, no, go to our website, cachegop.com, And then, of course, right on the heels of this, we've got,
Caucus night.
We've got caucus night on March 8th coming up. And, anybody looking to run for office, keep in mind the filing period is now moved up a week than it was before.
Chris, we're out of time. We'll get you back next week and talk caucus night if we can. For listeners,